Laura woke up, with a gentle stretch and a yawn, still basking in the afterglow of the fantastic party from the night before. It had been a wonderful evening, and she felt triumphant. James, the object of her affection, was finally hers. However, a shadow hung over her happiness. James was about to be drafted into the army, yet Laura clung to the hope that once he returned, they would pick up right where they left off. James, a classmate of Laura's, had just been bid farewell by friends and family as he prepared to join the military. The send-off had been a mix of celebration and concern, with James's parents struggling to mask their anxiety amidst the festivities. Brenda, another classmate, was there too. Unlike James, who was serious and had always dreamt of a military life, Brenda was the epitome of carefree, known for her joyful spirit and fleeting romances. Laura, often sought after by her mother Hannah during her late-night escapades, seemed indifferent to her future, focusing only on living in the moment. Laura had harbored feelings for James for a long time, making no secret of her affection. James, however, had never responded to her advances. That changed at his farewell party. After drinking too much, James's inhibitions lowered, and he walked Laura home. Their walk was filled with laughter and a spontaneous kiss, culminating in a moment of shelter from the rain on the terrace of an abandoned house, where their relationship took a significant turn. James, upon sobering up, tried to apologize, but Laura, radiant with happiness, assured him of her love and her willingness to wait for his return from the army. The following morning, Laura awoke feeling blissful, donning her finest dress and letting her hair flow freely. When her mother inquired about her dressed-up appearance, Laura excitedly revealed she was going to see her groom off to the army. Her mother, taken aback by the news of this sudden relationship, received Laura's assurance with a mix of surprise and concern. At the gathering to see James off, Laura made her way through the crowd, embracing James with a declaration of her miss and love, her words a mix of excitement and longing. This story of young love, tinged with the realities of military service, captures the intensity and impulsiveness of youthful relationships set against the backdrop of personal dreams and societal expectations. Initially, James was taken aback and a bit embarrassed, but soon he embraced Laura warmly and kissed her, even in front of his parents. He announced to them quietly that Laura was now his girlfriend, marking the start of their official relationship. Carol, James's mother, wasn't thrilled about this new development. She had reservations about Laura, considering her too carefree for her liking. Soon after, a military bus arrived to take James away, leaving Laura watching as it disappeared into the distance, enveloped in a cloud of dust. This moment made Laura second-guess her impulsive decision, contemplating the long 3 years ahead without James. Yet, she couldn't shake off the feeling that she had made a significant catch. Back at home, Laura faced a stern talk from her mother. Hannah made it clear that now Laura had proclaimed her commitment to wait for James. She must honor her word without bringing shame to herself or her family. Laura tried to assure her mother of her sincerity, claiming it was genuine love. Hannah, remembering Laura's past behavior, expressed her concerns but hoped for the best. Hannah had been the sole provider for Laura since her husband's tragic death in a motorcycle accident. She worked tirelessly to ensure Laura wanted for nothing, even though Laura often took these efforts for granted. Hannah's health was a growing concern, with doctors recommending surgery that they couldn't afford. As time passed, Laura adopted the role of James's fiancée with seriousness, earning respect in the village and from James's parents. However, 2 months later, Laura's life took an unexpected turn when she discovered she was pregnant. This news was alarming to her. She hadn't planned on starting a family so soon, hoping to marry James first. Fearful of the hospital and overwhelmed by the situation, Laura kept her pregnancy a secret for as long as possible. Eventually, Hannah found out, and by then, it was too late to consider other options. Despite her fear, Laura gathered her courage, wrote a letter to James informing him of the pregnancy, and bravely faced his parents to share the news. This act of responsibility marked a significant turning point for Laura, showcasing her growth and determination to face the consequences of her actions. When Laura shared the news of her pregnancy with Carol, James's mother, the reception was less than warm. Carol's skepticism was palpable as she remarked that they would see the truth once the baby was born, suggesting that James would be the one to make any final decisions upon his return. Laura was stung by Carol's coldness but chose not to let it show. To Laura's relief, James wrote back, affirming his acceptance of the child, which brought her immense joy. Despite the situation not being part of her original plan, Laura felt reassured knowing James stood by her and their unborn child, indifferent to the skepticism of her future in-laws. Laura gave birth to a daughter in early February. Upon seeing her baby for the first time, she was alarmed by the baby's appearance and learned from the midwife that her daughter was born with a cleft lip, a condition that, while treatable, initially overwhelmed Laura. Overcome by the shock and stress, Laura initially reacted harshly, but was soon informed by the neonatologist about the possibility of surgery and the normal development prospects for her daughter. As Laura grappled with the reality of her daughter's condition and worried about how to break the news to James, Hannah, her mother, rushed to her side. Hannah offered comfort and assurance, reminding Laura that they would face the challenges together and that James's support would be forthcoming upon his return from the military. Meanwhile, Hannah sought to engage Carol and Kevin, James's parents, for support, despite their initial hesitance to fully embrace their granddaughter. However, upon her visit, Hannah was met with a scene of deep sorrow. She discovered Carol and Kevin in tears, with a letter from James's military unit lying nearby. The letter revealed the devastating news that James had died heroically while on duty, a loss that shattered the family. This revelation plunged all involved into deeper grief, uniting them in their mourning for James, and marking a poignant moment of shared loss and the need to support one another in the face of tragedy. In their grief over James's untimely death, Hannah attempted to offer condolences and support to Carol and Kevin, urging them to find strength in their granddaughter's existence. However, Carol's reaction was one of disbelief and denial. She was taken aback by the mention of a granddaughter, particularly disturbed by rumors of the baby's cleft lip, and outright rejected the notion of accepting a child with a disability as part of their family. Kevin's tentative suggestion that the child might indeed be their granddaughter was met with Carol's firm refusal to acknowledge any such possibility, leading to a harsh confrontation where Hannah was driven away from their home. Devastated by Carol's reaction and the emotional turmoil, Hannah's heart could not bear the strain. She suffered a heart attack and was hospitalized for an extended period. Upon returning home, Hannah was met with the shocking news from Laura that she had left her baby at the hospital. Laura's justification, rooted in the despair of losing James and facing the reality of single motherhood with a child with special needs, revealed a depth of hopelessness and detachment that stunned Hannah. Laura's decision was influenced by the outright rejection from the baby's paternal grandparents, reinforcing her resolve to disown her daughter. Hannah, heartbroken by her daughter's callousness and the abandonment of her granddaughter, took immediate action. She returned to the hospital determined to ensure the baby had a loving home. The pediatric ward had been the baby's silent sanctuary, with no one to claim her until Hannah stepped in. After convincing the chief physician of her commitment to care for her granddaughter and asserting that Laura would eventually come to her senses, Hannah was allowed to take the baby home. This decision marked a new beginning for both Hannah and her granddaughter, as Hannah embraced the responsibility of raising her, hopeful for a future where love and acceptance could heal the wounds of rejection and loss. Hannah came back to her home with her newly named granddaughter Helen in her arms. Finding the front door locked, she initially thought Laura might have stepped out briefly. Once inside, she lovingly attended to Helen, comforting her with soft words, promising that her mother would return soon. As time ticked by, Hannah grew increasingly anxious about Laura's prolonged absence. The visit from a neighbor brought distressing news. Laura had been seen leaving the village for good, suitcase in hand, despite being informed of her mother's recent heart attack and her daughter's medical needs. This revelation left Hannah in tears, fearing the daunting task of raising Helen on her own. However, the neighbor, Julie, offered reassurance, reminding Hannah of the kindness still present in the world. 18 years later, Laura's life had taken many turns since leaving the village. She had made a new life for herself in the capital, leaving her past, including her mother and daughter, behind. Her journey was marked by a series of relationships and financial ups and downs. Initially using her mother's savings to start over, Laura's life included various jobs and relationships, from a brief engagement to a bandit who met a violent end, to being kept by a married man who eventually left the country and finally settling with a wealthy older man who passed away, leaving her with nothing as his heirs claimed everything. Left with scant resources and no luxurious lifestyle to fall back on, Laura faced the reality of starting over yet again. The once dismissed option of working in a diner became her reality, as she found herself without the means to maintain her previous lifestyle or the attention of affluent suitors. Laura's journey, marked by a quest for stability and love, had come full circle, bringing her back to a humble beginning and forcing her to confront the choices she had made and the life she had led away from her family. As Laura went about her day-to-day tasks at the diner, her mind was constantly haunted by thoughts of her home village and her mother, Hannah. She wondered if her mother, with her frail heart, was still alive or had passed away. For the first time in years, Laura felt a deep sense of guilt for her past actions. She realized she had made a mistake by abandoning her daughter and felt particularly ashamed of how she had treated her mother. Determined to make amends, even if it meant visiting Hannah's grave, Laura decided to take a trip back to her hometown. Upon her arrival, Laura found that the village had changed significantly. New houses had been built, and the roads were paved, a stark contrast to the place she remembered. However, her childhood home stood out as old and neglected among the newer structures, leading Laura to sadly conclude that her mother must have passed away. With a heavy heart, she set out for the cemetery, intending to pay her respects. At the cemetery, Laura encountered an elderly woman and a young girl tending to a grave. Hoping they might help her locate her mother's resting place, she approached them, only to be shocked into silence when the elderly woman turned around. It was Hannah, aged but very much alive. The realization hit Laura hard, and as they sat down to talk, the young girl, introduced as William, waited by the fence, giving them privacy. Hannah revealed that the young girl was Laura's daughter, Helen, whom she had raised with love and care. Helen, now grown into a beautiful young woman, bore no signs of the cleft lip she was born with, a testament to the transformative power of love and medical care. This moment of reunion brought a flood of emotions for Laura, confronting her with the consequences of her choices and the family she had left behind. Hannah's words underscored the message that love and dedication can indeed work wonders, offering Laura a chance at reconciliation and healing. Hannah shared with Laura the hardships they faced after she left, taking the last of Hannah's money with her. Without enough to even buy bread, Hannah was at her wits' end, worried about how to provide for Helen. Thankfully, the kindness of neighbors and a change of heart from Carol and Kevin, James's parents, saw them through. Together, they raised Helen, who underwent surgery for her cleft lip before she was even a year old, followed by additional procedures later on. Hannah gently chided Laura for running away from her problems, questioning if she had truly found the better life she sought. Laura attempted to reassure her mother that she was doing fine, although it was clear she had harbored misconceptions about the fates of her mother and daughter. Hannah updated Laura on recent events, including Kevin's passing from illness and James's surprising return to their lives. Contrary to what Laura had believed, James had not died but had been mistakenly identified as another soldier. After being held captive for 8 months, he was released and decided to leave military life behind for farming. James's efforts had transformed the village, contributing to its prosperity with his farm and dairy production. Hannah revealed that James had also undergone a significant personal transformation, adopted Helen, and married Emma, who embraced Helen as her daughter. James had welcomed Hannah into his home as well, creating a united and supportive family network. This revelation was a turning point for Laura, illuminating the profound changes and healing that had occurred in her absence. Hannah's story highlighted the resilience of their family and the community's capacity for forgiveness and growth, underscoring the message that it's never too late to return home and make amends. Hannah inquired if Laura had come back because she was facing trouble. Laura hesitantly responded, indicating that everything was fine with her, albeit with a lack of conviction. Hannah, sensing the unease, gently touched Laura's hand and reassured her that their reunion was a positive outcome, sharing that Helen, her granddaughter, was not just beautiful, but also ambitious, currently studying to become a surgeon. As Hannah prepared to leave with Helen, who had been waiting patiently, Helen whispered, asking if Laura was indeed her biological mother. Helen had always known she wasn't Emma's biological daughter, but felt genuinely loved by her nonetheless. Hannah confirmed Laura's identity, and when Helen inquired about Laura's intentions, Hannah simply stated that Laura had thought her dead, but now she knows they are all doing well, suggesting they head home to James and Emma. Left alone, Laura was overwhelmed by the revelations. James was alive, Helen was thriving, and her mother had forged a new life with her family. These realizations made Laura reflect on her own life choices and the empty rewards city life had offered her. Despite the unexpected chance to reconnect, Laura decided that her path lay elsewhere, away from the village and the family that had moved on without her. With a mix of regret and resolve, Laura wiped her eyes and made her way to the bus stop, determined to find love and a fresh start elsewhere, yet resolved never to return to the village that held both her deepest roots and her greatest sorrows.